What's up, guys? Today's video is going to be the first video in a series of coaching videos I'm making together with some of the players from the Archangel Gaming Academy team. This video was actually supposed to be the second video, but me being me, I accidentally deleted the first video file. So either way, this is going to be the first video, and to talk a bit about the guys that I'm going to be doing it with, it's two of the players from the Academy team. They're both very young, around 15 or 16 years old, I believe, and they're both around 4.5k to 5k MMR, and the whole goal of this video series is to be able to watch them improve over an extended period of time. So we're going to be doing these videos once or twice a month, something like that, every 3 weeks or so. And yeah, hopefully you guys will be able to track their progress, and I feel like this could be an interesting series. So yeah, I'm gonna link both of their Twitch streams in the description below, so please check that out after watching the video, and yeah, enjoy the video. Alright, so CVT.
Yeah, it's not the same thing as last time, because I think I've kind of figured out the bio in a way.
Alright.
So it's time for mech.
Alright, nice. Yeah. Early game looks fine. Yeah, like we went through the early game a lot last time, but like I'll still point out any obvious mistake, right? But
Yeah.
maybe spend a little bit less attention on it overall. Oh, we make 6 Zerglings.
Yeah, mistake.
Yep.
But I don't think that's...
Yeah,
I mean...
It's not the end of the world, yeah.
I mean, I think it makes you more safe, because it's harder to lose a Zergling then.
Yeah. Yeah, you shouldn't lose any Zerglings if you go 6 links, so that's nice. And yeah. Whoa. Oh. Okay, let's see what happened here.
So I think what I did is that I misclicked, so the Zerglings wasn't in front of the creep tumor.
Yeah.
And well, I'm gonna try to look at his vision.
Yeah. Yeah, like already the Reaper is quite low, but even in this case, it's like if he like put a grenade right away, and then targeted the tumor, will probably die here. So you want to make sure that you always put the tumor behind the queen, right? Or like your queen wants to be in between the tumor and the Reaper when you put it down.
Yeah.
So yeah, just make sure you always make it behind the queen if the Reaper is anywhere nearby.
So he actually looks at the Reaper while using it.
Yeah, maybe he thought. Yeah, maybe he thought he could get it. I don't know. It's a bit weird. Okay, Overlord. This is good.
So usually I go across with my Zerglings when I kill the Reaper, and I don't know. That's a good move.
It can be a little bit risky, because if he went like as long as like you know the timings for like gas first, like because if it was gas first here, the Hellions could be a lot faster, right? But then the first Reaper will be a little bit later if it's gas first. Like it's only a couple seconds, but like it's really hard to tell if you're not actively looking for it.
And I get some scouting, which is nice, but I guess I don't really need
Yeah.
that.
But yeah, like the only risk here is if he was going gas first, his first 2 Hellions would be a lot faster, right? So you would probably lose.
I got a little bit lucky with the opening.
Yeah, like gas first isn't very common these days, so it's like fairly safe. But yeah, just as long as you're aware that there's like some risk in it if they go like gas first, the first 2 Hellions could be like popping about now. So he would have 2 Hellions out about now.
Oh yeah, now I remember this game.
Yeah.
So I spread the Zerglings out because the Hellion fire.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of HP and then a CV, which interesting trade.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this probably shouldn't happen. But so like I like think the move across like this is like if like you checked with the Overlord, right? So in this game, like you could have said, okay, you know the Hellions are gonna be a little bit later. You could have maybe gone here, tried to poke it on SCV, but I would really try to keep these Zerglings alive, right? Because if you lose them, that's Zerglings you gotta remake.
So you can keep like 2 in the mineral line to keep SCVs and go home with 4 since they have 6.
Yeah, something like that. Or just in general, just like go here, check is there anything mining. Okay, and like now just go home, you know.
Yeah.
And if there's anything here, you can try to snipe it and then just go home.
But I get the most interesting trade I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I still think it was probably like it's not that bad for him, because you lose all your Zerglings. Like 1 SCV, that's good, but
he has to repair, right?
Yeah.
He's gonna lose it if he doesn't.
Yeah, but that's like mining time with 1 SCV, so it's like, yeah.
I mean,
it's not
it costs like 400 to repair from low to full, right?
I'm not sure exactly how that works from. I can't say for sure.
I don't know if that was cost efficient, but we've lost the same amount of minerals.
Yeah. The problem is like right now you see you have to remake 8 Zerglings, right?
Yeah.
Instead of drones.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like it's indirect damage to you as well, right? But yeah, like I think in most games like things like this probably shouldn't happen, but in this specific scenario, yeah, I think just going across the map, poking, and then like if there's no SCV mining, you just go home again.
You scout the 3cc. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. See 3cc.
Also no stim, right?
Yeah, but like usually like Steam researches so fast these days that they can kind of delay it a bit and still be fine. They don't have to start it right away. Let's see. Okay, let's look at what you did at home in the meantime. There was a supply block, which obviously hurts. Right here.
I'm supply block has started to become a huge problem as my macro gets better.
Yeah. Yeah, supply block is a constant struggle. It's just something that you
always have to deal with.
Yeah, you always have to think about it. It's happens to everybody, even pros. But yeah, so like our queen count is a little bit less than it should be. Like you're 5 right now. We're on 6 right now, or on the way to 6. No, you have 6. Okay, that's good. Let's see what happened here.
Going up to 7.
Okay. So let's look at this. I'm not gonna look at the strings. I'm just gonna look. Okay, now so ideally now you would have started the queen in the main already. Right here. So you would have 2 more queens on the way right now, 3 out, and then you would make 1 more in the 3rd race when it finishes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably like at this point you would want to go back into gas as well. Like it's kind of important that you get back into gas as soon as possible after you've saturated your natural, just because that's gonna make sure that we have the correct timings for our upgrades and our baneliness and stuff like that.
So when the natural full saturated minerals, we go back into gas.
Yeah, it's really important that we do it as fast as possible too. Sometimes
I've never really been sure when to do it.
Yeah, so like right now, you should ideally have 1 overload in production. And now,
yeah, ideally.
Yeah, you would rally back into gas now. So like this 1 larva you have in the main base, you should make that into a drone that goes into the gas. And then the next larva that spawns in the main base, so like these 2 larvae right now should be rallied into the gas.
Yeah.
So like you'll have 15 on the natural, but like this larva that finishes up here is going to be the 16th drone for the natural, and then you start droning your 3rd, right? So, yeah. The supply block hurts obviously because we have a lot of larvae that we can't spend, and we had to remake some Zerglings.
I'm actually not sure why I go across the map here.
Yeah, I mean, especially versus 3cc, they're gonna have less Hellions. And the problem is just like that you already lost 6 Zerglings, and now if you lose these, you may lose 8 more, you're gonna have to make even more. I think like doing pokes like this when you have link speed can be okay, but if you're gonna do it, you should do it with like 3 or 4 Zerglings. And like big link counters like this is mostly useful if they're going for like a Hellbat timing, right? And you already have the Zerglings, because the Zerglings aren't that useful in actually defending the Hellbats, right? So they can often be like, if you scout it early, it can often be more useful to just send them across the map to to counterattack, right? That's gonna distract him from microing. If he's not paying attention, you're gonna kill a lot of SCVs. It makes him way more all in with the actual Hellbat timing. But I think just like this, it's probably not ideal. You get some damage done, you force some mining time, kill some SCVs, you kill a Hellion. Wasn't the worst trade.
So, shouldn't this gas be a tell of the BC?
Well, not necessarily, because normally when they go 3CC, they'll get their second gas in their natural, not in the main base. But yeah, if you saw the main gas too, let's see if you did see that.
I don't think I see it.
Yeah, if you saw that you had 2 main gases already and a third at the natural, that would be a tell. But you didn't see. Because normally like they'll have 1 gas in the main, 1 gas in the natural with this build.
Oh, alright.
But yeah, like if you saw all 3 gases, then you would be a tell for sure. But yeah, in this case you didn't. Yeah, like BCs, it can be pretty hard to tell. You just have to, like, you're gonna see them having a starport, right? And if there's no starport unit coming after a long time, let's say the Viking comes out and starts hitting your Overlord, and then like no Banshee shows up, no Liberator shows up, no Medevac shows up, you're gonna start to think that there's something missing. The other thing you can look for is just the timing of the supply depots in the front. If they're going BC, they need a lot more supply depots earlier. With 3CC, it's a little bit different, just because the 30CC gives them supply depots, right, or give them supply, right? So
is the supply in depot in the natural? Is that a tell?
this is only a tell that is doing 3CC. So like when you come here and you see that there's no depot by 4 minutes, then you know it's 3CC. But like I said, if he was going like a 2-base BC build, it would be more obvious because he would have more supplies earlier, just because he needs it for the BC. But with the 3CC, he has the extra supply from the command center, so it can be a lot harder to tell.
So it's more about the gas spinning, right?
Yeah, in this scenario it's more about the gas, but obviously like it's hard to know as well with the 3CC builds. The reason like normally Terran goes 2-base into BC, and that's just because the 3CC BC builds are just too greedy, right? They lose to pretty much everything in terms of like roach pressures and stuff like that. Because like right now it's 5 minutes and he has nothing that deals with a roach push, right? He could technically make a Banshee right now, but even that probably wouldn't save him if you were doing like a Rosh. So
yeah. Okay, sports.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Wait,
for
do
like,
you not make at the natural?
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and look again, because ideally when you know it's 3CC, you would not make the 7th queen here. So this queen that you're making in the 3rd base right now should not be made. You want to stay on 6 queens for a while when you're playing versus 3CC. So 6 queens, start double evo or lair if that's what you want to do, and get your 4th hatch earlier. And after you started your 4th hatch, then you can make the extra queens after that. Yeah, okay, so let's see. Yeah, this is a very strange build from him, because normally if they're going BC, they'll at least make like constant Hellion production. But in this case, his Hellion count is very low, so it's like no tell really that he's going BC.
I think he tried to mind game me into thinking this was bio, which works.
Yeah. But in general, like BC, like getting surprised by BC is usually not the end of the world, as long as you have a spore in each mineral line, or at least in the base where he blinks in, you'll be fine. So yeah, ideally this game, you would have delayed this 7th queen, gotten your 4th hatch, and around, since you saw the Viking, or you're gonna see the Viking, I guess. Normally, like, you would start spores around this time versus 3CC. Just in case of Liberators or Banshees. But if you see the Viking, you can delay them like a pretty long time. Like a Viking takes 30 seconds to build, so you can start making your spores at like 5:15 or something like that if you see a Viking after 3CC. Same thing for if they open 2CC. If you see a Viking, you can delay your spores by 25 to 30 seconds. So yeah, ideally here you would have gotten... Yeah, your spore timing is pretty good. A little bit early maybe, but that's fine. Not too bad. Actually, it's pretty good, yeah. Yeah, like... I sometimes you can skip spores like this. Like you have to kind of... You know, sometimes you can get punished for this, sometimes not. Like having a spore in the natural... like sometimes it's gonna go into delayed cloak banshee from this, so just like having the spore in the natural can be nice, but it's not the end of the world if you skip it, because you have 2 spores. You would have to get pretty unlucky for him to go there first, right? So let's see. Yeah, so right now our drone count is a little bit less than it should be, right? And that's mostly because we had to make a lot of Zerglings this game.
Yeah, and that's...
Yeah, a lot of Zerglings, and we had some supply blocks too. Your injects looks like they have been decently on point overall, so that's not the problem.
I think I'm like 5-6 energy over, but it's not a huge deal.
Yeah, I mean, like the only thing here is like, I think we had the same problem last week, is that it's really important that you're injecting your third base right now. So like these 2 queens should be walking over to the third base to inject and put out the creep timber right away when this one finishes. That's the only thing that you missed in terms of injects this game. So yeah, like you see these 2 queens to the third base, inject creep timber. So yeah. But yeah, in general, like it's just the extra Zerglings we made, and now we made 12 more Zerglings because we lost our Zerglings again, right? So
Yeah.
it's just a lot of like, it adds up over time. Like in total we made like what, 6 plus 8 plus 12, so 26 Zerglings. That,
Units.
yeah, just that's 13 drones, right?
It's a whole mineral line.
Yeah.
Basically.
Like you always have to make some Zerglings, but you have to make a bunch of extra ones with this game, right? So you probably could have had like 6-7 more drones, and plus the supply blocks. You could be at like 65 drones right now, like full saturation on like 5 gas basically. And here usually what I do is, after taking my 4th hatch and I've gotten to my drone count, if I have a little bit of extra money, I'll start like 2 more queens and go up to, well, in my case 8. So here you can make like 1 more queen, go up to 8, or you can go up to 9 if you want to. The queens are very useful in the early game to defend and just make it harder for him to push, and make it so you can commit more to run bys, right? But that's optional as well. Like but at least I think you should go up to at least 8 queens as default. So start 1 more queen here. And the thing is that like you're gonna get games like this where you get surprised by a BC. Ideally you would find out by just checking the front right now and seeing that he has no units, right? He only has 6 Hellions and there's no units behind it. That's super suspicious, right? Like, because at 5:42 the Terran would like start to think about taking their third base, and they would start to get ready for their first 2 medevac drop, right? Like they would have Marines out, maybe a tank would be popping out about now, stuff like that. So that's the only real tell you have here. Usually you can tell just because they're gonna go up to like 10-12 Hellions, right? But in this game he's just not doing that. So but anyways, like in some games it's gonna happen. You're gonna get surprised by BC, and it's usually not the end of the world as long as you react properly to the first BC.
The season where the BCs could move and shoot, everyone was playing it, and I still know the defense from that season, because every single game they went for BC, so I knew, like, I still do that defense.
Yeah, we'll see.
Like 4 seasons ago.
Yeah, so here instantly reborrow your spore. You should also start. Yeah,
I tried to walk my 3 queens, but they're getting body blocked.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah, so ideally right now, as soon as you see it's BC, you would, like I said, reborrow your spore, pull away your drones, pull your queens to the main, start new queens, like as many as you can afford, and your next step is to get a Roachborn and a Spire.
I think I do all of those besides getting queens and pulling away the drones.
Yeah, I mean, if he attacks the queens, that's fine by you, but yeah, you just don't want to lose drones, you know? You just have to micro accordingly to not lose drones.
Or maybe I actually do pull away the drones.
Yeah, like again, like he killed a queen and a couple of drones, so far it's not too bad. So yeah, like a roach warren should go down instantly, because now you should start suspecting that it's mech. And after like you've stabilized, you've dealt with the BC somewhat, you want to start scouting and checking it, like, is he going into bio or going into mech, right? That should be your next thought process here. Like, you already have the Spire and the Roach Warren, and you want to ideally find out if it's mech or bio before you make any roaches, right? So if it's bio, you would just play Mutilating Bane from here. And if it's mech, then you would need to make Corruptors and Roaches, right?
Yeah.
So that should be your thought process here. Just dealing with the BC, droning up super heavily behind this. Like, you don't need to be making any Zerglings right now. It should be only droning. Like, the moment you see the BC, you should know that as long as you have enough to deal with the Hellions, which he just threw away all his Hellions, right?
Yeah, that was why I was on the map with the links.
Yeah, exactly. So like now, as soon as you see it's BC, you need to drone super hard. Like 80 drones right away. So queens, drones, scouting. Yeah. Spire. Yeah, Roach Warren and Spire should be like as soon as you have the money for it, and it's BC, should go down. So like ideally, like this is like the panic reaction, right, when you have no idea it's coming. Ideally, if you have an idea it's coming, you already have the Roach Warren down, you start the Spire a little bit earlier, you have maybe an extra Spore, you have more queens in position, stuff like that. It's a lot easier. You can already prepare to do the follow-up scout, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, at this point, that's all you're trying to find out. In here, it's enough to come up to the natural and see that he's not researching from the eBay. That's a big enough of a tell to say that it's mech, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're getting the Ling Run by. It's not bad. Force the lift off. Okay, yeah. So you go into Muta here. Ideally, just first off, you would have more drones here. Like, already just take your 5th base right away. Like, as soon as you've confirmed it's mech, which you have right now, you just want to start... Yeah, you want to get up to like 85, 90 drones. More hatcheries, like 5, 6 base. And just get out some roaches so you're safe versus like a Hellion run by, right? And then just drone super hard behind that. It's viable to play Muta like this. You play like Mutilating Bane a while versus mech. It was very popular like a year ago or so, if you remember.
Yeah, I saw Zero playing it, I think.
Yeah.
A bit.
Yeah, so it can definitely work. I think it's less consistent. Like, you have to outplay your opponent a lot more than you would with just the normal like Ravaging Bane Grappler style. And you can also just play Mutilating Bane like this, where you get Mutilating Bane, you do some Ling Bane run bys, you get your Muta count up, and then you transition into Ravaging Bane from there a bit later. Because like with Mutilating Bane, you're gonna get full map control. The Terran can't attack you, so you can spread all your creep, you can go up to 100 drones, and then from there you can transition out of it. The only really problem with going Mutilating Bane like this versus BC is because that if they keep making BCs, you have to keep making Mutas. So like you have to be able to fight the BCs with your Mutas. So that's the one reason I'm not a huge fan of Mutilating Bane versus mech, just because if they're making BCs and they keep making them, you have to go up to like 25 Mutas and get like +2 attack, right, to be able to fight the BCs.
Yeah.
And then at some point, the Mutas lose their value, right, and then you have to throw them away and stuff like that. So, but it's definitely viable to just play this style, and then you're harassing, like you're setting up. So right now you should do like a Bane Ring run by into the 3rd base, and behind this you should be making like only drones essentially. So like up to 100 drones, Mutilating Bane, and then you can just stay on it the entire game. And if you choose to stay on it, you're gonna play it a lot like you do in CVC, right, where you're just throwing Banelings at them at their bases, trying to keep them on the 4 base at most, stuff like that.
I think I noticed that he already has 4s, and I just completely give up on the Mutas.
Yeah. Yeah, so the problem now is, since you made the Mutas, now you have to make Corruptors as well, right? And now that's a lot of money that you invested that didn't really progress you and give you any map control anymore. Because like when you stop making Mutas, you lose your map control. And like you still have to make like 13-ish Corruptors right now versus the BCs, right? 12, 13 Corruptors. So that's a lot of money that we have to invest. So And yeah, still our drone count is not where it should be, so it's starting to look a bit more rough here. We have baiting speed, that's good. Yeah, it's like if you had, let's say, like 10, 15 more drones and you had made corruptors instead of those mutas, you would be in a really good position this game right now.
Yeah, the plan is to go 90, right?
90 plus, yeah. Like, you just need to make sure that you always have a bank to remax. So whatever drone count you need to be able to do that. Like, you're gonna be making some spines and some spores and stuff like that on the outside bases. So going up to, like, you never want to go like below 90 essentially. At least not in the first 15 minutes of the game.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't have any anti-air. So
Yeah.
just...
Yeah, exactly. You could probably like try to poke like this. The thing is, like, with Corruptor versus BC, you don't really want to poke. You just want to have like fights, you know, like you want to have fights that you commit to, so he has to blink away. Because when you get to use poke like this, he's gonna Yamato, and then you have to go back and you have to remake some Corruptors, and then by the time you come back again, he's gonna Yamato again. So you don't want to do this like poking back and forth versus BC. When you're fighting versus BC, you want to just fight them and force them to blink away as fast as possible, right?
He actually doesn't have Yamato. I'm
Yeah,
wondering
that's
why.
yeah. I'm also curious about that. But that's good for you. It means that your Raptors are gonna own the BCs even harder. But yeah, the one thing about Raptors is you gotta be a bit careful, right? You gotta like just try to match their BC count, because you don't ever want to be in a position where you made like 20 Corruptors and there's only 2 BCs, right?
Yeah.
So start off.
Usu-
Yeah, go ahead.
Usually, I find that position okay as well when you have like 15 corruptors versus no there, because you can piss on every single building that they have. I don't know how you feel.
Well, the thing is, like, you can do that, but if there's like a cyclone or like a couple of cyclones, then it's very risky to be out on the map with the corruptors, because they can get trapped by cyclones, right?
Yeah.
So stuff like that, like, sure, it can be nice, but in general, like, you don't really want to get into a position where you have a bunch of useless corruptors. Because we're not really ever planning on going into Lords versus mech. Like, we might if they go for like a pure tank army or a pure cyclone army, then we might make some Lords. But if they have like any Thors mixed in, we're not gonna make any Lords. So ideally, we would just not make the corruptors. So just make sure that you get enough to fight whatever BC count he has. So if he has, I would say it's like 3 to 4 corruptors per BC, something like that.
Then, yeah, okay, then I overmake corruptors, I think.
Yeah, like you should add in infestors as well for fungal, so they can't blink and stuff like that. And corrosive bile plus fungal is very good versus BC. So you don't need to have like a super omega high corruptor count. Just like, yeah, 3 to 4 per BC. I think is a good number.
Also, like, he shouldn't be attacking, right? He should just be like seeing when he's expanding and maybe then.
Yeah. Ideally, you just want to stop him from taking his 5th base here. You can attack into him like this if you're maxed out with a bank, because you can start forcing trades right before he gets maxed out. But in this case, when you're not maxed, you don't have a bank, you shouldn't really be looking to attack into him. You should just be looking to creep spread, drone up more, and yeah, like, have some vision on these 2 bases. And if he tries to take them, then you can try to make it difficult for him to take it. You don't necessarily need to like 100% fight for it to stop him from taking it, but you should make it as hard for him as possible, right? So ideally right now you just creep spread more drones, wait for a bigger bank, add in like a couple of infestors just so you can stop the BCs from blinking. Yeah, so like if you were maxed with a bank, these moves would be okay, where you're just like throwing a Wailing Bane, throwing Biles, and going home, remaxing. But yeah, in this case, your economy is too low to do these kinds of moves.
So now he does. I killed the 2 PCs, so now I have full air control. What can I do with these corruptors?
Well, not much.
Like going into Brood Lords, or is it just?
You always want to make sure you keep upgrading them at least, and you can get a Great Aspire. But I would only make Broodlords. Like in this case, you could actually make Broodlords because he has 1 Thor. So it really depends on his army composition. The most important thing is just like identifying his army composition, and then once you make the Broodlords, you need to go with them right away. Like you don't wanna sit on them and give him time to build Thors. You wanna make the Broodlords and then push a base or corner his army and force a fight. You know, like stuff like that.
So is a safe Greater Spire a move? Like if you kill the force, if he has force, you can just switch into Broods before he remaxes on force.
Yeah, I always make the Greater Spire, and like just in case I want to make Broodlords, but I never really like plan on going into them. You know, like it's like if it gives me the opportunity by having 0 Thors, I can make a Broodlord switch. But yeah, in general, yeah, just make the Greater Spire if you have the Corruptors, you know, and then but just wait for the game and see how it goes.
So I'm trying to just starve him of bases, especially orbitals.
Yeah. Well, you just want to essentially just stop him from expanding. And ideally, like when you're playing versus mech, your creep spread should be a lot better, so that you can take like all of these bases out on the map that he's not taking.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're just gonna be looking to fish around and engage into his army where you can. Like with Lingbane Ravager, and like this fight right here. You want to engage with everything. You want to fight while your Lingbane is alive, and then as soon as you're out of Lingbane to tank, and you've like thrown your corrosive biles, like right here you should already be pulling back, right? Because you don't want to let your Roach Ravager take damage.
Yeah.
So here you should already pull back, make more Zerglings, and then go again, rinse and repeat. And you mix in Banelings depending on how many Hellbat Cyclones he has, right?
Yeah. I think it was a misclick to go in that with the last units, but yeah, I should have pulled back.
Yeah, for sure.
And now the SCPs.
Yeah. So like if you're ever fighting him and there's like super tank Thor heavy and there's like little Hellbats and stuff like that, Zerglings are actually very good. So for that reason, it's very important that you get to Hive fast and get Adrenal Glands as fast as you can. Ideally, you would have the range upgrades as well. Like you can sometimes go 3 Evo if you're having a very good game and your eco is good. But ideally, I prioritize attack upgrades over armor upgrades.
So this is where the game is one of the weirdest games I've ever played versus mech. This is where it starts, when he attacks me, and I have no clue how this game ended up in this position that it's going to be ending up in.
Okay. So yeah, so first off, what happened was we lost our entire Roach Ravager army, right? At the top
so
here.
We have to make it.
Yeah, and right now we have 0 Roach Ravager. So ideally, this is also another reason why the creep spread is so important, is that we want to keep our Roach Ravager alive, remake the Lingbane, and then like the second he moves out, he starts moving across the map. We want to be like facing his army, forcing him to siege, throwing corrosive biles, trying to run Banelings into Hellions, and then just like repeating that process.
Larva, which is very good actually, because I made 90, 100 Zerglings.
Yeah, but now you're out though, and like ideally, like in a game like this, you're gonna fight him again and instantly remax again, right? That's how you, like, and if you were like on this drone count the entire time from the beginning, you would have like a 6k bank right now, right? So even me, like I'll get like 2 macro hatches with in these kinds of games. You just need to. It's so important that you can always spend your money into units. So yeah, like ideally here, if you had your army still alive, you would engage him here, try to run Banelings into Hellions, throw corrosive biles, and when he sieges up, you just throw your biles and you run away, right? And then you remake whatever units you lost, and then you do it again. So like by the time he gets across the map, like by the time he gets here, you will have like engaged him like once or twice, and he will have lost a chunk of his army, right?
Yeah.
And ideally, if your macro was on point with the injects and spending your money, then you would be remaxed again, and now you can actually just take the full-on fight, right? And in those scenarios, like, ideally you've cleared out most of the Hellions at that point, and at that point you're just trying to get your Zerglings top of the tanks and the Thors. So yeah, right now here it's trouble because we have no roaches, right? We only have pure Lingbane.
So before they move out, like before they're maxed,
yeah,
how do you like identify what they're making? Like if they're making just Thors or.
Well, like I said, like if you're maxed with a bank, you're gonna be poking into them, right? Like you're gonna be engaging with your Zerglings, poking into them. So like that way you're gonna get information, right, about what they're doing. So yeah, and ideally you're gonna force them to move out and clear creep spread, and you're gonna be taking a lot of aggressive expansions. So you're gonna force them to do something on the map, right?
Yeah.
So that way you're gonna get information. But yeah, in general, just like just by poking into them. Yeah. Go ahead.
Like if I have like 5 overseers.
Yeah.
With my army, and I can just keep on like poking.
Changeling.
Yeah, that's also completely fine with changelings, and yeah, that's also good. You can, if you want, here mix in a Viper, and just for Blinding Cloud. That's also viable, but I don't think it's necessary. But it's definitely something you can do. It's like a single Viper for like a Blinding Cloud on clown tanks can be good.
Well, I could have actually engaged the hell battle on my base. They were all grouped.
Yeah. Yeah, so like now it gets really hard for you because now he is here with a 200 army that you haven't really worn down at all over time as he walked across the map. And now you're in the point where you're like, you have to fight this army like 2 or 3 times to kill it. Like you're gonna have to fight, remax, before you can kill it. Like just winning a straight up fight just in one shot like this versus an army like this is really hard as Zerg. So from here it gets very difficult, but you can still do it. Like if you get a good fight and an instant remax, and then you get another good fight. Important thing here is just that you set up a flank. So you should try to come down this ramp. Come from 2 sides. Yeah.
So the Corruptors actually saved me this game because they killed so many CCs that we didn't have any mining left.
Yeah, that's actually MVP units. That's
They just pissed on every single building. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good use of them. He should really have like some cyclones though. So like you can't really rely on this every game, but it's a good move since there was no cyclones and you did this. That's a good move. But yeah, ideally here, a flank, and engage into this. Something you also could have done is like, if they ever get rid of their BCs, and you find a way to get rid of your Corruptors without just throwing them away, you can go into Swarmhost if you want from there. Like when there's no BCs and you don't have any Corruptors, it's fine to make Swarmhost versus mech.
I have no clue how to play Swarmhost, but I can try.
Yeah, basically you would play it the same way you're doing here. You would just have less Lingbane. And instead of having Lingbane to tank for your Roach Ravager, you would have Locust to tank for your Roach Ravager. So it's very similar, like how you're going to engage with the Locust wave, and then you remax, and then with the next Locust wave you engage again, and then you remax. So it's very similar, right? So yeah. So yeah, like right now you can see that we have a larva problem, right? We have no larva. So ideally here, like now you got rid of all the hellbats. What I would do here if I had the money and the larva for it would be to just remax on Zergling. Yeah, mass Zergling. And then preferably I would have had adrenal glands right here. Because like if Zerglings actually just shred tanks and Thors if they get on top of them with adrenal. So yeah, that would be what I would do here.
He literally only has 1 orbital.
Yeah, like the Corruptors more or less won you this game for sure. If you win this game, I'm not sure, but
I don't want to tell you even.
Yeah.
Because this game is just special in its own way.
Yeah. Yeah, another thing here, like there's very little Thors. You could try to make Broodlords, but like you don't know if there's more Thors coming across the map, then that could be
I mean, what else can I do?
Yeah.
It's the last effort thing.
Yeah.
Broodlords?
Also something that you can do, like I've done it in games like this where it's like super scrappy and they have no anti-air, I just make Mutas. But that's not ideal either. Yeah,
so this Greater Spire has been here a long time.
Yeah.
Or the Spire is just bleeding to death. If they kill that, I think I lose the game.
Yeah, probably.
But now?
Yeah. Yeah, even if you started making Thors earlier, it would have still been rough. Now you get to
Yeah,
clear out
now
this
I
army.
clean up the army, and now I just need to attack him.
Yeah. So like ideally in this scenario, that's what we talked about earlier, right? You want to mass expand. So usually, like if you have like these 3 bases, let's say, it's usually like kind of fine for you to just give up bases. So like when he's pushing you down here, you just pull away your drones. Make sure you don't lose your drones. Pull them to a new base, and you just give up your bases. That's also like if you ever, it's more important that you take a good fight than that you save your hatchery, right? Especially versus mech. So that's another reason why we want to mass expand, just so we can, because the mech army is super slow. We can't really chase our drones. It's not very fast at clearing up all the bases we have around the map. So yeah, just make sure that we like retain our good drone count. And like, yeah, sure, if you have to give them this position, that kind of sucks, but it's better that you do that than that you have your bases left and you have your drone count left, and then like once you clear this army up like you did here eventually, then you can just retake the bases that you lost and your economy will still be fine, right? Yeah, so let's say like here you still had like 80 drones and you had a base here, a base here. You would feel pretty good about this game, like no matter what, even if you didn't have the Broodlords, I think. But yeah. So here's the thing with Broodlords, like I talked about, is like if you give the Terran time to
you have to go.
Yeah, you have to go. I think ideally here when you see the Thors, you would just try to go and maybe kill the base at the bottom. But yeah, like you can also feel like you have to take the fight. That's understandable as well.
So clear up some tanks and then I can go with the roaches and kill it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know how I win this game. Like,
yeah, now it looks pretty over.
this is the greatest game of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, so like we saw here, like you still won this game, but there was a lot of things we could have. Yeah, we could have done a lot of things better, and if you did those things better, you wouldn't have been close to any. And this was like a case where you got completely caught off guard by a BC, right? So, there's definitely a lot of room to improve here, and if you just fix some of those things we talked about, like I think the mech games should look a lot easier. And like I said, like if you want to go the Mutilating Bane path initially versus mech, that's completely fine. You just know that you have to commit to it pretty hard, right? And drone really hard behind it. And like really establish your map control, make sure that they can't expand, run banings into mineral lines. Yeah, and like you want to be super active with the mutas as well. As long as you're not eating Thor shots, you want to be picking off everything that's exposed.
I was actually planning for him to take out my main, so I already have a lair, Roachhorn, and the spawning pool in the top right. Just to try to...
Yeah, that's very important as well. Like I've lost games because I lost my Roachhorn in the front, where I had like a huge bank and I had all the larvae I needed, but I had no Roachhorn, and like he had like a bunch of Hellbats and Cyclones, so I couldn't just make Lings. Like I lost my Baniness and my Roachhorn, and then I just lost the game because of it, even though I was super far ahead. So yeah, it's really important that like if you ever get your tech is ever exposed, like you remake it super fast. Because yeah, like hatcheries, like I said, hatcheries doesn't really matter so much here. You just wanna make sure that you get your bases up and keep your mining going, right? Right. Good stuff.
So he goes pool first, and I go hatch first.
All right.
16 pool.
Okay, yeah. So here, like, this is a really good situation for you because you even floated your larva.
Yeah, I played a series. Like I played 2 series against him. This is the later series, so I know he likes doing early pools.
Okay.
So I just floated my larva.
Yeah, like in general, this isn't a good, right? But if you're playing somebody who does early pools, and like it's fine to just keep your larva like this, and if you don't see any Zerglings, you make drones. The thing is just like on this map, if you wait until your overlord gets to his natural, you will be floating like 3 larvae for a long time. So
yeah, so I don't want to overflow. Like
yeah, exactly. So ideally, just float it for a little bit. Like at 12 pool, you would have already met it. Like if at 12 pool, you would have seen the links about now.
Yeah.
So like here you can just float your larva, like just float on 19 for like a couple of seconds until like here, and then like if you don't see it's a 12 pull, you spend your larva, you know.
So what do I do differently against pull first?
All right, we'll talk about that. So yeah, like ideally here, would you spend your larva, go up to 21, and when you see the Zerglings, you would make 6 Zerglings of your own. Start your queens. So like 8 is a bit of overkill, I think. Like I think, even though you're gonna have a good defense here, it's not ideal simply because you have 2 less drones than you should have. You also made 8 Zerglings instead of 6, which is a bit overkill. So that's like 3 less drones already, right? So yeah, ideally you would just do that, and then what you're gonna do is start a 3rd queen and a baneling nest before your 3rd base. It's also fine to go like only baneling nest before 3rd, and like go like 2 queen baneling nest 3rd base. That's fine. But I personally like to do 3 queen before 3rd versus this stuff, because there are some like very aggressive all-ins they can do, and it's really nice to have the fast 3rd queens versus that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and like here, like your main goal should be to instantly, like right now, what you want to do is you want to find out if he is Ling all-inning you, or if he's going into Ling Bane with a 3rd base, or if he is playing 2 base. Those are the things you want to find out. So it's really important that like as soon as you've stabilized, you send a Zergling across the map. Because ideally, like we want to make this baneling nest, but we want to get a scout of what he's doing in time to cancel this baneling nest if we need to, right? Like if he's playing 2 base roach or something like that, you know, you want to be able to cancel this baneling nest.
Just wondering, are you a fan of these overlords position? Because personally I'm not. Outside spice space. The 2.
I think the one on the left is fine. I think the one on the right, I think you just like checking to make sure you didn't miss a drone going to the 3rd. Ideally you would just keep it like a little bit up, just enough so you would see a drone going to the 3rd. And then so you're still covering this ramp that's goes to the middle, right?
Yeah. I was definitely late to send the link.
Yeah.
So I couldn't really cancel.
Yeah. And then ideally later on, like once you have your 3rd overlord coming across the map, you would have 1 overlord here, 1 overlord here, and 1 overlord here. That's gonna cover all 3 paths, right? That he can take. You could also just like have 1 overlord here, 1 overlord here, and 1 overlord here. That's also okay. You just want to make sure that you have vision on all 3, so he just like you don't want to give him a chance to sneak 20 links across the map, right? So just make sure that you're covering all the exit points in one way or another. Yeah, that's fine. See, ideally here we would have gotten the scout off earlier to know what was up. But yeah, since he went link speed, but he didn't make any Zerglings, so I'm a bit confused about what he's doing. But yeah, he takes a 3rd base. Yeah, from here you can just drone. Maybe, like again, we talked about this before a bit. If you're playing versus 2 base, you want to make sure you get your +1 before your lair, just because you want to match his upgrade, right? Like already this game isn't looking great for us because we have a baneling nest versus, and we make 4 banelings blindly. So in general, you want to refrain from ever making banelings blindly like this. You would just keep them as Zerglings and rely on your scouting in the front, and then morph banelings as you need to when he moves out. At the very most, at the very most, you should never make more than like one blind baneling.
I think I basically lost because of the upgrade advantage for him. Like it was way sooner.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're already a bit behind because of one. You were like 3 drones down in the early game from your early game response.
Yeah.
And then you got a baneling nest, and then you made banelings. So like, there's a lot of stuff that you could set you behind here, and then you even go fairly fast lair instead of fast upgrade. So like, there's a lot of things that's putting you behind here. Like versus the first 6 links, you just need to like run your drones around a bit, right? Like he's gonna get to deny mining in the natural, but that's fine. Your 4 links are gonna pop, and then you can fight with 4 links and some drones. And if not, 6 links are gonna pop, and then and like by the time the queens pop, it's completely over, right? Then he can't do anything anymore if he hasn't taken the fight already. Hasn't took the fight already. That's how you say it, right?
I think I take this gas too early as well.
I think the gas timing is fine. I think the biggest problem is just that your lair is too early.
Yeah.
We're floating some larvae here that needs to be drones. It's like again, yeah.
Early lair timing. Can you do like an early overseer to scout what he's doing? If you do this.
Yeah, if you're doing this, then you should definitely do that. But again, I think the early lair kind of gives away your advantage as being the guy with the fast third hatch, right? So ideally here you would again focus a lot more heavy on drones. Like you're floating 7 larvae right now. You're investing to 3 gas and a lair, where ideally you would have just focused a lot heavier on minerals, on 3 base, getting your 3rd base mining going, and then being defensive with +1 roaches, right? Like you're gonna get your lair eventually. You just wanna make sure you don't cut any drones for it. Make sure you get your drones out, get your upgrades, and then you go into lair, right? Whenever you can afford it.
I see his lair timing.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and I also don't see 4 gas.
Yeah.
Like so no mute that.
Yeah, for sure. Going over speed like this is fine. The problem is that you're already behind, and overload speed is not usually like a luxury upgrade in this matchup, where it's something you can do where you're even or ahead. It's a little bit, yeah.
I make roaches here for no reason, and
yeah, I mean, ideally you would be making roaches here, but ideally you would have already been mining from your 3rd base, so you would know that okay, I have an eco advantage, now I can make units. And then you scout like this, you see, okay, he's droning his 3rd, now I can start droning my 3rd even harder, you know?
Yeah, but this was a bit late, I think.
Yeah.
So he made for banelings. I don't know where they went. And
I canceled
he's making.
Okay,
oh,
cancel, that's
you
good.
canceled.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I can shut up.
But yeah, so in general, you're just a bit too far behind in economy this game. It's really important that when you're playing 3 base versus 2 base that you focus on minerals, getting like a better mineral economy than he does, because that's going to be your advantage.
I'm just a bit. I'm always a bit scared. Like I don't really know when to be drawn. Like most games, I either lose because I don't make units or I don't make too many drones.
All right, so like, but essentially you can just drone until at least 45, like at the very least 45. Like they can go for like a 2 base speeding timing. But in this game you had a Baning Nest, so that's not even scary, right? As long as you keep like 1 or 2 Zerglings at home, so you can morph Banings instantly when he moves out, there's nothing to worry about. But even if you didn't have the Baning Nest, all you would need to do here is like on like 32 drones-ish, you would need to make a wave of like 8 Zerglings, just to be safe versus that. But those Zerglings you can also use to delay his 3rd base, poke at the wall, and get scouting, right? Yeah, exactly, you already have them, so in this game you could just keep droning here for a long time. So what you should have done here is just, instead of this lair, just get your evo a little bit faster. Make sure you're spending your 9 larvae that you have into drones as fast as possible, like right away when you have them.
It should always be drones and then lair.
Yeah, and when you're playing like this style, when you're playing as the defender, right, you want to make sure that you have the mineral advantage, mineral income advantage.
Yeah.
Roach horn you could delay a bit as well, no need to have it super early. Yeah, just you get it in a decent time, but make sure that you're not cutting too many drones for it, you know? Just make sure you're getting all your drones out. Evo, then Roach horn, then lair.
Yeah.
So like ideally you just want to be matching his upgrade right here, right? Like +1 versus +1. And then you're going to be defending with a higher economy.
So when I see he's upgrading, and he's not upgrading the Roach horn.
Yeah.
So I know he doesn't have a lair yet, but like why? So the only thing that like he can't like just mass roaches and attack me.
Yeah, exactly. So like right here, you know, there's like he could go for like the link pressure like we talked about, but in this case you have a Baning Nest, so there's no need to worry too much about that. If you wouldn't have a Baning Nest, all you would need to do is make your own Zerglings, right? He could be going Muta, or he could be just playing like a Roach style macro build, right, where he's just gonna get +2 and get a 3rd base and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, so I should not be scared here at all. I just have to see something move out, or like if he's making something.
Yeah, the only thing it could be like a Nidus, because sometimes they don't get Roach with Nidus, but you even have the Zergling in the main base to check for that.
Yeah, he Nidus me way many times, but way too much.
Yeah, So here, like you see even taking a third hatch, you have your Zerglings, you can keep poking, you get in here. Like whatever you can do to scout, just poke at the front, see what unit he has, see if there's drones coming out, third hatch timing, is he upgrading, all that stuff is just, you just have to try to make as many reads as you can off of that information in this scenario. But yeah, here you could always drone up to like at least 45 before you make any units. And preferably like 2 gas, 45 drones, and then you would add on a third at that point. And then as you get more information at that point, like I said, you would see the third base and see, okay, he's making drones to his third, now I can add in more drones, right?
Yeah.
And like if you had a good early game, you could even go up to like 50 drones before you start making units.
So
like,
I'm just behind in this game, basically.
Yeah, because you made your roaches too early, right?
Yeah.
And also like the stuff in the early game too wasn't great, but the big thing is that you got your lair too fast, you made your roaches too early.
Yeah.
And now you can see like the difference in the upgrade, right? He's almost a minute ahead on his +2.
Yeah.
So like in a situation like this, if you identify that you're behind on upgrades, you need to always try to go for a contaminate on their evo. It's nice to do even if you're ahead or even, but if you're behind, you have to do it just because you have to even out the upgrades, right?
Yeah, his +2 is like miles ahead, and he takes a fight when he has +2, and I don't. And like, I just lied him.
Yes.
So when you know that you're behind on upgrades, I usually have like 5 roaches sitting in waiting, like here, till he moves out to go into his mineral line to force him home, buy more time. Is that a viable thing?
If he has poor map vision, then yeah, 3 roaches is usually the magic number, because you just want enough to one-shot drones, right? 5 can be a bit much, because if he finds them, then that's kind of expensive.
Right.
I feel like if it's just 3, then he can just rally like units.
Yeah, well the thing is like you're still gonna kill, if he just does the rallies, you're still gonna kill a lot of drones, and that's gonna put him more all in across the map, right? So then you're fine to just keep making roaches. So yeah, I think 3 is like the magic number, just so you can one-shot drones. Yeah.
Also this game, I think I should go burrow. Just like have any chance to outplay, because I'm...
Well, you don't need burrow, you have overseed speed. You can do dropper lords.
I think in this game, like, you're just so far behind that he's gonna like attack and kill you, right? Pretty much no matter what. The only thing I could see you do here is like spam Ravagers and try to be defensive. And like, yeah, use Bile to zone him out. But in general, like, he's up 10 workers here. And yeah, like, you have a bigger army, but it should be the other way around. You should be the one with the economic advantage, and he should be the one with the slightly bigger army, where you're using defender's advantage to stay ahead in economy, right?
Yeah, and like the upgrades should be even, basically.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, exactly. So now we get to the point where we're even in drones, but his upgrades are super far ahead, and now he's just going full into units, right? So like, even if we were to match his army count now, we would just say even army supply, he's gonna have such an amazing timing here with 2-2. And it's such a long timing too, like he doesn't have to go right away, he can wait like for even more units before he goes.
Yeah, so just upgrades are super important.
Like if you're down like 1 upgrades.
Yeah.
But the thing is like +2 is so huge, but if you have, let's say, 1-1 and they have 2-0, then that's it can be fine, as long as you take a good concave and fight, that's all good. But if you're down like a full, like if it's 0-1 versus 0-2, stuff like that, it gets okay, or 2-0 versus 2-2, then it gets really bad, right? You just want to make sure, like, you're gonna have to rely on taking good defensive fights where you're in a concave and he attacks into you, right? That's the only way you can win a fight.
I think I do take a concave, but I just like, he still has to like, I don't have +2 here.
Oh no, moving out.
Yeah, and like at this point in CVC, it's all about army positioning and posturing, right? So it's very important that you're spending your larva into roaches right away, because the bigger your army is, the more aggressive you can posture yourself, the more the better positions you can take on the map, right?
Yeah, but like, he's 30 supply ahead, so I should just cancel this space and like try to make a concave here.
I think you can try to hold this space if you just make a concave in front of the hatchery. I think the biggest thing here is that you have so much larva. That could be like, you could have 9 more roaches about to pop right now, right? So here, like, idea is just, yeah, you throw some biles. Ideally, you throw biles a little bit ahead of his army.
Yeah.
And then you pull
Yeah.
back, and then you pull back, right? And then you pull back a little bit, and then you A move so that if he tries to run away, you get to snipe off some units that are running back, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, just try to zone him out, because you don't actually want him to, like, even if you land the biles, you're still gonna lose the fight if he goes for it here. So your goal is just to get him to run away. So the way you would do that is just throw some biles at the front of his army, like here, like where the first Ravager is right now of his. You just throw some biles there, and then back off and get a concave. And then you do the same thing. You throw some biles in front of his army, you back off a bit, and then you retake the position.
Yeah.
So when you are this defensive, like, you can just sit on the ram, build high Ravager count, and have 3 roaches per base in the enemy. Right?
Not per base. I think just like 1 runway of 3 is enough. Like, especially at this point when you're so far behind, if you put too many roaches on the other side of the map, he's just gonna kill you, right? I think here you just stay defensive, you keep scouting to make sure that there's no like spire switch happening, or if he's going up to hive, stuff like that. You just want to know what's happening. So you know, keep scouting with overseers, and then you sit here defensive until you're maxed. Like once you're maxed, then you're maxed and your +2 finishes, then it's equal again. Right now you can start to take more aggressive positions.
Yeah.
But yeah, here like his army is just too big, and the upgraded disadvantage is it's too big.
Yeah. Right. So like I think my 2-1-1 defense is like okay, but I don't know. I seem to always just lose to the follow-up.
Alright, we'll have a look.
What 4th base would you take on this map in CVT? Because I have no clue.
I think both are kind of fine actually. I don't think it matters too much. Versus 2-on-1 though, the right side one might be better. Just because you don't want to spread yourself too thin versus 2-on-1. And like as long as you have like a spore or 2 in the main base, like you can put like your queens in the 4th base at that point. So but in general, I don't think it matters too much. I think both are fine.
I mean, I have the map vetoed, so I just don't know how to play it.
Okay, we go link speed. It's okay. Here you're gonna have to make a 3rd queen right away. Oh, you got it. Okay, you had a hidden drone. Wait, let me see. I missed that.
Yes, I usually send them.
Yeah, I think in this case, like you should definitely get your 3rd hatch before the speed.
Oh,
So
alright.
Yeah, it's so late.
because it's such like your drone has to sit there for such a long time, right? It's not very efficient. So here just like put out a gas a little bit earlier. It's like 60. When you have 60 gas, you pull 2 out of gas.
Yeah.
You can still do the same timings for everything with overlords and links, and then just on 30 supply you just take your hatchery here instead of starting link speed.
Yeah.
And
So
it will, yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, that will be good. Just because like this is fine to do, but you're gonna
I think
like
I
this drone has
stop
to
it,
sit there for
like
so long.
immediately. My overlord. So
Yeah.
I know it's
So when I see a 2-on-1, I usually pull 2 into gas and make +1 carapace.
Yeah, that's fine. You don't really need to pull 2 into gas because you don't need to rush it that much.
Right, like not
Rather.
now, but
Yeah.
2 in guys, like 40 seconds from now, 30 seconds from now.
Yeah, I think you can just do your normal saturation and you just get +1 from there. That should be fine.
Or you get the Reaper. Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I just normally like I take Evo Bane Nest, put back on 1 cast, and I just make queens and links. Like
Yeah.
that's my usual.
Yeah,
I
that-
just do like a 1 cast response.
Yeah, that's good. That's what you're supposed to do here. Yeah, ideally you would keep this order alive. Like you can just scout this by
Sending an ally.
singing a link in the front. Yeah. The overload scout is okay. The thing is like right now though. Yeah, like the early game is just about spamming queens and drones, and you gonna get so much supply locked here. That's the only problem with this. If you had like another overload in production, I would be completely fine with this. But yeah, like in general, me personally, I rely a lot more on just link scouting in CVT.
Right.
But like this is fine to do what you're doing. So yeah, here you should get an Evo, like you said, and a baiting nest. So like right here. An Evo and a baiting nest. And you should keep making queens. You made 5 Zerglings, which is a bit on the high end, but that's fine. It's completely fine. Wait, did my Streamlabs just crash? No.
Oh no.
Alright, we're fine. Yeah, it's like Evo and baiting nest, just because he could be keeping the reactor on the factory, right, and go for the stim Hellbat timing, right? So that's for that reason we want the baiting nest here. And yeah, just queens and drones this entire time. It's good that you didn't make any extra Zerglings, so that's really good for you. So here the goal is to have, you want to get up to 8 queens total and like 50 drones before you need to start making links. So here like you're making,
Yeah, I'm making links way too soon. I should be at like 50 drones.
I usually start making links at like 435, I don't know.
Yeah, 430, 440 even, could be fine.
It depends on the supply box.
Yeah, so what you should do right now is just, make queens, as many as you can afford, drones super hard, and the Zerglings that you have, you want to start putting them out on the map a bit so you can see where the first 2 medevacs arrive. Similar to like what you would do in CVP, right, where you're looking for if like a warp sim is moving out, you would do the same here. Just put them around your base. Ideally you would pull these overlords back, just because when you know it's 2-on-1, you know there's gonna be marines that can hit overlords here, so ideally you pull the overlords to a safe place, and you rely on Zerglings to get information for you.
Yeah.
Creep spread as much as you can. Like, again, these should have been drones, right? And then you can start making units. Yeah,
After, basically.
Yeah, like around here.
So
if you start making units like around here,
drones,
that's fine. Yeah.
And then links.
Yeah. So yeah, like if you just started spamming Zerglings now, that's fine, because you need to have about 30 Zerglings to fight when he actually arrives.
Yeah.
As long as like you have some Zerglings, so like you just need to make sure that you don't let him just boost into the main base and drop out for free. And as long as you have like 10 Zerglings under the medevacs, he can never drop out, right? So you don't need to have 30 Zerglings instantly. You need to have 30 Zerglings by the time he is unloaded everything and is ready to engage, right?
Yeah.
And like you're gonna have your queens too, so yeah. Okay, so baiting us, that's good. This looks fine. You have enough Zerglings, now you should be droning. Yeah, the second wave of Zerglings isn't necessary right now. Yeah, just 30-35 Zerglings, that's fine. Yeah, just vision here, so if you're in position with this, because if you're here, like if you saw this a bit earlier, you're just in position, you can't really do anything. Yeah. It's also very important that if you're ever in a position here where you don't know where the medevacs are, you need to make sure that your queens are more centrally positioned, so they need to be like in front of the natural now, right, or in between the natural and the third, just so you can get everywhere very fast with the queens.
Yeah.
Because you can't. Yeah, it's gonna be really hard to fight this 2 medevac drop without. It's a very late 2-on-1. It's like a 20 seconds late at least. But yeah, ideally.
It's third behind it.
Yeah. So ideally you have vision, and your Zerglings is here earlier. Your queens would have been better positioned, so they can be here faster. You end up doing fine though, so it's no worries.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you should be droning really hard here.
I could be at like 60 by now.
Yeah. So like after you've made the units for the initial defense, like these units, now you should be droning. You should be adding like 2 more gases. Ideally your drone count should already been higher right before this. Droning, add 1 more gases. You can add a second. You can add your lair, and then once your lair is like 50% done, you add your second Evo, right?
Yeah. I think my Bane speed was like this game.
Yeah. And then versus 2-on-1, it's fine to get a macro hatch before your 4th, but here you could just get your 4th base, to be honest. And if you ever start floating money past this point, just make more queens. Queens are very useful here like the entire time, because he's going to be playing super aggressive with this style. Like you can see how late it's 30 to see. It's like he needs to do something with this. So yeah, just make sure you keep making queens. But yeah, like you should be droning super hard right now. And if you can look at this, like if he kept just making marines non-stop and made 2 more medevacs right away after the first one, They would arrive at like 6:30 with 4 medivacs, something like that. Like
6:30.
Yeah, like 6:20. Well, like they have to wait for Marines. Like the two medivacs can be ready earlier, but they wouldn't have any Marines to pick up, right? So
yeah,
he would arrive at your base like maybe 6:15, 6:20 with 4 medivacs, like right here. So for this timing, you would need to make units again, right? But ideally for this timing, you have already made more queens, you have banelings. So yeah, like now you should make like a second wave of 30 Zerglings for this timing right now. So maybe like 6 minutes, something like that, like 5:50. Here, maybe now you should make another wave of Zerglings, right?
I usually stay at like 55 workers till I defend the person, and I go up to 70. I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, ideally, like I said, you would be at 50 drones here already, and now you have like 50 seconds of powering up, right, of droning.
Yeah.
Droning and making queens, and then like at around this timing, like 5:50, something like this, now you would make another round of links, right? And then after that you can finish up your droning. Like if you're not fully saturated on 3 base yet, you should fix that. Ideally your 4th hatch would already be on the way, so you can start thinking about droning your 4th.
Yeah, my 4th is really late.
Yeah, adding on macro hatch and stuff like this. Yeah, okay, you get the medevac, that's good. If you're taking this base, like you could just make a couple of spores in the main base, and then he can't really go in there with the medevacs. You can keep all the queens in the front.
Yeah, I like doing that.
That would make you feel way safer. Yeah, so you're going 5 gas, Hydroling Bane, that's good. Macro hatch, yeah, everything is looking good. Just a little bit late, a little bit low drone count. Otherwise, everything looks completely fine.
I think, like, I lose this game because I don't have Bane speed. I just forgot it completely.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That happens from time to time.
The only move.
Yeah, I have 72 workers, and he like basically almost just landed his CC.
Yeah, like even after with all the mistakes, we're still ahead, right? So, you can see how easy this would have been if we fixed those things.
If I just had Bane speed, I think I would have won.
Yeah, so I think at this timing you should be expecting a push of some sort.
Yeah.
Like if they're going for like 8 racks, they're gonna sit back a bit longer and then go for like a huge big push. But otherwise, they should be doing like some sort of move out fairly soon. So at this point, you should start spreading Zerglings around the map just to see the move out coming, right? So we can morph Banelings in time. Yeah.
I think the most important thing is just having like Bane's speed.
Yeah, for sure. But there's probably other things we could do as well. In this case, like normally, like this 5th base would be what you want to take. But in a game like this, where your creep spread is all on the left side, I think it's better to just go for the left side base because that's easier to protect, right? You already have creep spread outside of that base, whereas for this base, to really feel like you have creep spread covering this base, you would need to reach the high ground on the right side with the speed zone.
Yeah, that's a bit hard.
Yeah, so you should probably just take the other base here for your 5th. And yeah, link spotters, like even without the baning speed, I think you could still win this game if we do it correctly. Like you're only on 8 queens, which is that's like the starting amount. I feel like you could have added more this game, maybe like 2 or 3 more queens could have been good.
Would it be fine to go to 6 or 7 geyser just to get huge baning counts?
You shouldn't really need it to get to a big baning count. Like getting 10 hydras is fine, like as long as you're not over making.
Oh no.
It's more like links are actually pretty good here, so you just want to make sure that you're spending all your money, you have banelings ready. So like if we saw this move out, we would have had banelings ready already, right, for this.
Yeah, so just always split links.
Yeah, just make sure like if you have creep spread covering the entire map, then you don't need it, right? Because then you have vision naturally from that. You just need something to give you a heads up to morph banelings, right, in time.
As I said, if I if I have banelings here, I don't have speed.
Yeah, but like even if you don't, it should be fine. If you just where you're spent all your love right now into Zerglings, you had banelings ready. Like if you had all your money spent into units, I think you would still win this fight pretty hard. Your queens are in the front. Your queen should always be with the fight in these scenarios.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, like here, we're building up some units. We don't have any banelings. We're morphing them right now somewhere in the main base, so they're super far away from the fight too.
Oh.
And here we engage with half our army, and probably this is almost, actually, like looking at this, I feel like this is enough if we just waited for our Evo upgrades, even without the bailing speed. So there's actually like no reason for you to engage here right now. The biggest mistake that you're making right here is that your queens are in the main base. They should be in the front here to buy time.
Yeah, just tank.
Yeah, tank, transfuse. If he tries to focus the hatchery, you can transfuse it. He has to bring more units forward to fight the queens. That means that there's gonna be less marines in the back covering the tanks.
Yeah.
You should always set up a flank before you engage into these tank armies. Yeah, just make sure that like you have so many units in production, so many upgrades in production right now, and your queens are way out of position. So, like as soon as you see the push, like ideally your queens are already at the front because you saw this push way earlier. You have banelings pre-morphed. Yeah, you can try to like fake engage him a bit earlier on so that he sieges up and you buy some time for your upgrades. But you can even just let him get his position, have your queens in the front, and then once your +2 armor finishes, you just go. You wait as long as we possibly can, and if if he forces you to fight by targeting the hatchery super hard, then you take the fight. But you want to delay as much as possible.
Yeah.
So even here when we're fighting without our upgrades, with half our army,
I think
it's actually not looking so bad. Like it could look way worse.
It could look better though.
Yeah, for sure. But even considering everything, like if we just did those things right, we would crush this fight super easy.
Wouldn't it be fine after killing that marine pump that was on the ramp just to go back? Because that was just because of the overextension.
Yeah, that would be fine too. Like ideally, like that would be the same effect as having the queens there, right? Just buying time for the rest of your units and your upgrades. So yeah, anything to buy time here. Like even now at this point, you lost a bunch of drones, but it's actually like there's no 4th CC. He's only on 2-1. Yeah, he's super all in. If you just again had your queens in the front, you're now again you had banelings pre-morphed. You're spending your money into units. I think you like still can win this game. The biggest problem is that you lost 19 drones during all that, right? Other than that, like this was definitely a winnable game. Like even here, like it's not like you're even in supply, and you even workers
way behind.
Yeah. So the biggest thing here, again, our queens are not in the front. We're not in position with pre-morphed banelings. Yeah.
I think I should just like this is way too this is never gonna be a good fight for me.
Yeah, at this point you probably should just give up this base. That's also like another good thing, like if you would have taken the base on the left side, you could have just even actually given up this 4th and just send your drones to your 5th hatch on the left side, because you're actually like he's so committed. He's essentially 8-raxing you, but with 2 factories instead of the last 2 barracks, more or less.
His tanks are so far back. It felt like we could have saved the base and just not go in.
Yeah, I mean, like at this point, we have to fight for our 4th base, but I think here, like if you had this hatch going up on the left side instead, and you had like a small group of lings to deal with this drop, you can just give up the space and go there, and you're completely fine. Just wait for your upgrades, and then taking a good fight is way more important. So in general, just setting up flanks, having your queens in the fight, making sure you have vision so you can pre-morph banelings and fake engage into him. So like, let's see, I wanna try to show you that. So like here, like if you saw this move out happening, let's pretend this tank wasn't here, right? This tank in the front wasn't here, and you see this move out coming. Here you could just take your army, run off creep, run towards him, and as soon as he sees your army, he's gonna stim and he's gonna siege up, and then you just run away, and then you've bought time like that, right? And you forced him to stim with his 2 medevacs with lower energy.
Yeah, he has no medevacs.
Yeah. So there's a lot of moves you can do here, but everything relies on you having information, right? About you seeing this coming. So yeah. But yeah, now he gets into this position, and now like you have to fight for this space, because yeah, if you lose this space, it's game over, right?
Yeah.
But ideally, you would be in position here. You would have a flank set up. Your queens would be in the front to go in first and eat the first few tank shots. But yeah, it's just not enough. And yeah, from here it's game over.
I actually killed 22 SCVs.
What? Wait, what just happened?
Bin robber, I guess. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's also something that's good to do.
I just walked in with bins, so...
My eyes fell asleep for 2 seconds and that happens?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
but like I still lose.
Did you?
I
Yeah.
don't have enough.
Yeah. Yeah, like... Yeah, the biggest thing is just making sure... Like, this is a rule for Zerg overall. It's just... You want to defend with the bare minimum and make units at the very last... Like, the last possible time, right? You know, you want to make sure you get out as many drones as possible before you're forced to go into units. Unless you're specifically going for, like, a timing, right? If you're going for, like, the taxi, then obviously you're going to stop droning earlier than you have to and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, if you're looking to go into a macro game, you should specifically... yeah. Here, ideally on this map, you would send this overlord a little bit more downwards. Just so you would spot a pylon scouting probe a little bit earlier. But it looks like it's gonna end up being fine. Let's see where he goes. Yeah, I can see he went gate scout. But if it was pylon scout, you would ideally just send this overlord a little bit downwards.
Yeah, so see if it's a hatch proc.
Yeah, so you see if you see this probe earlier, and then if you see this come, you can just send your drone away earlier, right? To get you to the third base faster. Let's see.
Oh. Oh, I thought... Oh, you are going in. And he's going Stalker first.
Just AFK for 1 second with the overlord.
Yeah. Like, again, like this is something you can do. It's okay, but I said this stuff is gonna happen, right? Especially if the opponents knows you, they're gonna go for Stalker first more often.
Yeah.
It's a risk you have to take, I guess. But like again, like I said, I rely more on just scouting the natural and relying on links later on. So what
Yeah,
did we
I think
actually
this
see?
map is good for like just parking the overlord.
Yeah. So yeah, you saw he started warp gates. If you actually looked at that, I'm not sure, but you saw warp gate starting.
Also, shouldn't we like have the overlord a bit from the pillar so we can see the adepts better?
Yeah, for sure. Like as long as there's no stalker, we just keep it close enough to the pillar so we won't lose it, right? Yeah, he made a twilight and then cancelled.
Likely to lose it if we like only see half of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, just keeping it a little bit forward to see, so you make sure you can see everything, right? The units coming out of the gateway and stuff like that. So obviously, like this is like he really abused you here, right? Where he went Stalker first, made a twilight under your overlord, and then cancelled and went Stargate. So you're getting a bit tricked here. And in general, in CVP, you never want to be out on the map before link speed, because an adept will just chase your links down and kill them if they find them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, it should be a tell that he's taking an early base, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got lucky that I saw the early third base.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's super early. Wait, what?
Yeah, it could be like one of those old school, like 3-gate glaives into third builds, but it's still very strange, right? So yeah.
3K? I mean, I don't think that pressures you a lot.
Yeah, but like they used to do that back in the day. If you remember, like 3-4 years ago, they would play 3-gate glaive with a third nexus, like before the 4-gate robo, 4-gate glaive robo.
Guess that's just to get an overreaction, I guess.
Yeah, like overall, like the game was kind of different back then as well. Patches and stuff. There was no shield batteries. And...
So I actually get pretty lucky because I get spores because I see twilight. I see like, oh yeah, it's maybe TTs. I
Yeah.
get spores, and it counters the oracles by chance.
Yeah. Yeah, like ideally when he goes for this, he would go super fast, like right away with the first one, or he would save up for 2. It looks like he's saving up for 2, and 2 can still do damage because like normally.
Yeah, but it just does less when you have a spore.
Yeah, like another thing that you can see here that you saw in the natural is that he's making zealots, which also makes no sense. If he was going for a Twilight first, the only reason he would be making zealots would be if he is going for like a 6-7 gauge charge not all in. But he's taking a third Nexus, a fast third Nexus, so he's not doing that. So just by seeing the zealots would tell me that it's most likely Stargate right here. It could still be DT like you said, but either way you should get spores, right? So just the zealots is a big tell. You see it right here. Yeah, you see the zealots. So here, like, you should already know that, okay, he's not going for a glaive timing. He's most likely not all-inning me because of this very early third base. So it has to be either DT or Stargate, right? It could be some weird Archon drop build, but then they would need the Robo faster too. So yeah, it doesn't really make sense too much. So yeah, you get spores. And yeah, ideally you would have a little bit better overload spread here. Like, unless you actually see a Void Ray or a Phoenix or something like that, you should try to have your overload spread a bit around your bases.
Yeah, it's the trauma of always getting the overlord sniped in CVP.
Yeah. Yeah, you just have to, instead of just not spreading them, you have to get into the habit of pulling them back after you see the Void Ray / Phoenix, right? So yeah, you want to put them initially, just like below your natural, above your third base, just the most obvious locations, right?
I think what Martin does better is that he delays the second gas long enough to squeeze out more drones on the third.
Yeah, it's really important. Like,
But
you don't want.
I take it way too early.
Yeah, like essentially you want to think about it as you don't want to cut drones. Like, you don't want to have missing minerals because you took too early gas or teched up too fast, stuff like that. If you're looking to play a macro game, that is. You want to get it at the, like, earlier layer is obviously better, but if you're doing it at the cost of cutting a bunch of drones, then it's not amazing, right? And here, like, even here in this case, we are cutting drones, right? There's 6 larvae that we couldn't spend because we got our lair and the gas here.
Yeah, I got that earlier roach horn because I was a little bit confused.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Yeah, I would also be confused this game because it was a weird opening.
Yeah, now it's going Immortals. What?
Yeah, and a good habit to have just in general in CVP, or in any matchup, like even in CVT, is just to have the queens positioned towards like the harassment point, right? So let's say like Oracle or Banshees or Liberators, whatever, you want to have your queens in the most likely position for them to come in. So here you would want to have your queen in the winner line.
So I've also begun having like 2 queens in the main in CVP.
So
I think
I don't think I should make these 10 roaches, but I didn't see his army. I think it was that with the links. I didn't see it for a second, so I made panic roaches.
Yeah, okay. Let's see what happens. So this is also like a good part of just having the overload in the natural here, is that you would see everything, right? You would see the shield battery, you would see the immortal, you would feel pretty safe, you would see the forge going down, so like that would make you feel very safe. But just like seeing what's in the natural wall or behind the natural wall can be so useful. But here you can do it with links too, for sure. But yeah, in general, like I talked about, you wanna. Like the 2 queens in the main thing, I prefer just having 2 queens in my natural and third, and then having, if I see that there's like 2 or 3 oracles, I will make 2 spores in my main instead.
Oh, alright.
Because the main is on most map usually the hardest place for the oracles to go, right? Because they have to go over the third or behind the natural, and you have a chance to poke at the oracles with the queens from there, right?
Yeah, but there are a lot of maps where there's a lot of that space.
Yeah. Yeah, you essentially want to make sure that you have, if there's like more than 2 oracles, 2 or more oracles, you want to make sure that you have 2 spores, 1 queen, or 2 queen, 1 spores in each base.
I think it's actually easier to do it your way, because like having it in the main is a bit weird.
Yeah, it's usually very far away from where you want it, right? Like usually you want the queens further toward the front so they can really spread creep and they can chase off oracles. They can be used in if they attack you, you can pull them faster to the front.
Yeah.
Engine stuff like that. So you see his army. You see that he's up to 6
Yeah.
gas.
Yeah, he's up to 6 gas, so I shouldn't make these roaches at all.
Yeah, you also see immortals. So you know this, like, if he's going for like a charge slot Archon timing, it's gonna be a lot weaker. So you see he has these immortals. There's also like you have to think the reason they like to skip these immortals when they go for the charge shot Archon timing is just because they can get their gateways out. Like this is like 4 gateways essentially worth of minerals that he has in immortals.
This is the classic. I'm gonna make roaches when I see immortals.
Yeah. But yeah, like you said, yeah, for sure you should be making drones here up to like 66 at least initially. But probably you could go up, like as long as you keep scouting, you can go up to like 75 drones here, pretty safely.
Shouldn't like the Hydra attack be down by now?
I mean, that really just depends on what you want to go for.
Yeah. Like normally, like no matter what I'm doing, like if I'm doing Hydra, if I'm doing Infestation Pit, if I'm doing
oh yeah,
Spire, I would just put it down like right away with the lair. It's like it's good that you're scouting and that you're reacting like this, but like you should already have like somewhat of a plan of what you want to do in this scenario, right? So in this case, like I would say that Swarm Hose is really good. You could also, like, every style is still viable here. The only thing I wouldn't do is like Hydraling Bane.
yeah.
But that's a personal thing. Like if Hydraling Bane is probably still viable here. Even like Ravagerling Bane is probably still viable.
Well, I think you would have to outplay way more. Like.
Yeah, the thing is like below like top GM, there's a lot more room to outplay. So like the composition, you don't have to have like the best composition. Just doing good moves is more important, right?
Yeah, like I always get run by Sin and stuff when I play Bane focused style.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, just thrown up here, and like me personally, I would go for Swarm Host here. So I would just get an Infestation Pit, and then you do the scouts. That's still good, and then you can like change your plans if you're. Let's say you make it Infestation Pit and you scout and you see that he's going Colossus or Disruptor. Then you can just go Hive and go Lurkers, right? You can transition away from that. So even like a Spire here for like Muta into Roach Ravager is also viable. It's just important that you get the tech right away, no matter which direction you want to go. And then like after you scout, you can readjust if you want to change your mind. But you should already have like a plan of where you want to go here.
So when I go Muta, the biggest problem is just killing the army when they attack.
Yeah, so
I think.
Yeah, most of the time when you go Muta, they're gonna all into you, so you want to make sure you don't tech too hard behind it. You want to be making a lot of Roach Ravager behind it.
Yeah.
Ideally,
and
like
it
if you
should be the same like philosophy as with against Mac. I mean.
Yeah, like if you're behind, then you might want to consider just going for a base trade, like committing to the Mutas and going for a base trade. Because if you're behind, it's gonna be harder to kill their army. But then you're going for a full-on base trade where you're gonna try to kill his buildings before he kills yours, right? But in general, just make sure you don't tech too hard behind it until you know he's not gonna attack you.
Yeah.
Okay, so here you're going into. Yeah, like so ideally here, like if you made the Infestation Pit right away, your Hive could have been like almost finished by now, you know? Yeah. Like at least like 60% done. So we're just a little bit behind on our tech because of that. That means that our Lurker power spike is gonna be later. We're gonna have to rely on Roach Ravager to defend for longer, which is like the less Roach Ravager we can get away with in the mid game, the better. Like it's only good for us if we make a bunch of Roach Ravager and then we get to actually use them to fight him on Creeper, you know. If we make all this Roach Ravager and then he just sits here, they're just gonna become dead supply eventually, right?
So if I were scouting right now, I'd be scared that he's like trying to attack. I think. Well, he's taking Storm now, but it feels a bit late.
Yeah, so.
And his fourth could be sooner.
So like I talked about, ideally before you even made these roaches, you would have been on like 75 drones after seeing the, like right here. Let's see. Like here, you should just keep droning. You're like, yeah, keep droning here, get your 4th hatch. Then like you can make some units here just because even if you were to start droning, let's say you were on 66 drones right now, you would have nowhere to put your extra drones because your fourth isn't ready yet. So here you could make some roaches just while you wait for the fourth to be ready to get saturated.
Yeah.
But in general, just you want to get up to like 75 drones in this scenario. And like once you get the scouting off with the, let's see when the overseer comes in. Should be fairly soon.
You see with the links, the gases.
Yeah. Now the overseer comes.
Yeah, I wanna see what the overseer sees in the main base. So you see him, the twilight here is just now finishing. That means that whatever he wants to use the twilight for, Templar archives,
yeah, it's not gonna happen.
Upgrades, it's still very far away. So like here I would just drone even harder up to like 80. Get my gases going, get my hive going. You see a forge, so you know it's not going like some weird, just straight up all in. You see his gateway count. You know he doesn't have enough gateways to actually attack. So yeah, like here.
So like he's just being extra safe, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's safe can be. It's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah,
it's
because
only good.
I feel like he can get away with way more.
Yeah, exactly. Like this game, like you had all the information you needed to just go up to 80 drones. You know, it wouldn't have been greedy or anything. You just, it's what the correct decision is here. Do it like at least 80 drones, and then, yeah, you could go like I said, if you had your infestation pit on the way already, you could have your hive done now. You could be going into the lurker upgrades right away, because I assume that's what you're going for here. Yeah. Like imagine how much different this game would look if you were on 80 drones that entire time. Your fourth base would have been fully mining, and you had lurker upgrades on the way. Like you're about to go into range upgrade lurkers. But by the time he has any timing to hit you, you will have range upgrade lurkers, and then you can start being aggressive to him. And he's, once you get the lurkers out, he has to buy time to get to sky toss, right?
Yeah.
So that you just, if you had all of the stuff earlier, you would just increase your timing window to put damage on him or like put pressure on him by a lot. So it's good. And again, like overloads would be really nice, especially once you have overload speed. You want to be spreading them even more aggressively, like towards the corner of the map, everywhere where still run by might come, stuff like that. But yeah, creep spread looking decent. Yeah, you're working on the rocks. That's good. Yeah, ideally you don't want to make too many hydras. Like it should just be like, your goal should be to turn all your hydras initially into lurkers. So lurker upgrades as fast as possible. And like once you've gotten to your lurker count, that's when you start to actually add on hydras into your army, you know? Because
lurker drop a viable thing. Like
it's
Overlord into the main one lurker in every mineral line.
It's definitely viable, and it's very annoying for the Protoss. The main reason I don't do it is one, that it's very expensive. So like if you lose it, like if let's say he has a Void Ray and he kills it, and or if he has Stalkers ready and he blinks and kills it, that's that's much more expensive than like a Bailing drop, right?
Yeah.
Number two is that most of the time I feel like I would rather just have 2 more lurkers in my army, because usually it's just gonna come down to like the big main fight.
So
but it's definitely something that's viable. You can play around with it and get a feel for it, you know, like do you feel like your army is too weak without those 2 lurkers, or do you feel like it's fine? Because it's definitely very annoying for the Protoss to deal with. They have to bring detection to multiple bases to clear it up. Like let's say you put like 1 lurker on the high ground up here and you 1 behind the main mineral line, or even above the natural in the main base. Like there's a lot of annoying stuff you can do with lurkers, right? And it takes a lot of attention from him to clear it up. So you're gonna have to experiment a bit yourself and see what you'd like. Me personally, I don't like it just because I feel like I would rather just have 2 more lurkers in my army.
So I scout the extra Stargates and I realize, yeah, I'm not gonna hit any like big lurker timings.
Yeah. So like ideally this game you would have had the timing, right? We're also getting the wrong upgrade for the lurkers first. Should always be range first.
Personally, I think burrow, but maybe range is better.
Yeah, the thing is just like even if they're burrowing faster, we can't really fight immortals or like anything without the range upgrade. The range upgrade is the #1 priority. In pretty much every single situation, I would say, when you go lurkers. So yeah. I've seen like Dark. The Dark is the only player I've seen go for this, where he goes for the burrow first, but Dark does a lot of things that doesn't really make sense overall. I'm not sure like if he even has a reason for why he does it, but I think you should just always go range first. Your lurkers are so much stronger with the range upgrade. Like you want to get both, obviously, but I think always range first. But yeah, like going back to like the Hydra stuff, it's like, yeah, the initial Hydras should all be made into lurkers, and then the reason you keep making Hydras after that is just because you're expecting him to go into Skytos, right? So you want to have something that deals with anti-air before Corruptor. Yeah. So otherwise, like if you're just going like Roach Hydra, the Hydra is like an expensive Roach essentially in what it does. In like the mid game. So yeah, here you're doing multi-prong with the Roaches. That's good. Maybe like at this point, it's really hard to just like run into him and engage with lurkers. Here you might be able to because he is being a bit too aggressive with a small army, right? Yeah. So here you might be able to get a good fight, but in general, it's really hard to just run into his army with lurkers and get a good fight. So in general, what your goal should be here is just to pull his army home by doing counterattacks with roaches, right? Yeah. And then once he goes home to defend that, then you can move your lurkers forward and get them into a good position, like outside his third base or in between the natural and the fourth base and places like that. Yeah. So your goal here is just to get him to go home, so you can go across the map with your lurkers for free and get them into a good position. And ideally, you would be way more lurker heavy here, like up to like 15 lurkers. I think is good.
So, like, when should I start throwing away the roaches?
So ideally, you would have been doing that already, like we talked about with the roach counterattacks, right?
Yeah.
Like ideally, from this point on, like once you have lurker tech, you should never really remake a roach when you lose it, right? So at this point already, you should be looking to set up the counterattacks. Like you have roaches somewhere. Oh, yeah, there they are. Yeah, so ideally you set up roach counterattacks here. So like instead of going here with your entire army, you would just keep the lurkers and some roaches at home and send like this big chunk of roaches with your lurkers right now. Probably should have just gone directly to the fourth base.
I've heard it's impossible to attack.
Yeah, like you're obviously not gonna kill the base with the roaches at this fourth. You're just looking to like pick off a cannon, pick off a pylon, pick off a battery. You want enough roaches so you can fight a Salad Warpin, right? It's because that's like, if you can just deal with it with a Warpin, he's just gonna do that. So you want to have enough to actually force his army to come at you. And then when this army goes to defend the fourth base, your lurkers would run forward and you would put them like, yeah, maybe where his stasis ward is right now, somewhere there. And then you've created a scenario where now he has to attack into your lurkers, right? And ideally in this scenario, like if we talked about everything that we talked about earlier with the mistakes and the high timing and stuff like that, we could have actually had like 12 lurkers right now with both upgrades. And then if you get 12 lurkers down in between his natural and his fourth, you're cutting him off from defending. Hard. You can just send in like all your roaches into the natural if he doesn't take the fight. So like you're forcing him to attack into 12 range lurkers with a ground army, and that's always gonna be a good trade for you.
Yeah, it's even better on this map because of the ramp.
Yeah. So that's just like in general the moves you're looking to do. And then like the roaches, you don't want to throw them away, but you're gonna trade them off and you're not gonna remake them, right? So ideally at this point you would have already naturally gotten rid of some of your roaches. But yeah, from here the big thing is just to keep doing multi-prong. Ideally now, like as soon as you realize you're not gonna get anything done with your lurkers, you should be adding on vipers. You got the spires, so that's good, but you should ideally already have like 2 or 3 vipers here. And as you lose your roaches, you would replace them with corruptors, right?
Well, I'm having a bit of a problem securing bases. Is it just like make spines be like in another base and move them, or?
I think the biggest thing is just that your map vision, right? We talked about the overlord spread, like having overlord spread around the map, having creep spread, and then like you should, like we're doing right now when you have 2 armies, right? And these armies, they should serve 2 functions, and one is to defend your new expansions and to put pressure on his expansions, right?
Yeah.
And like once the expansion is finished, you get some static up down, you can leave like 1 lurker at the expansion, and that will defend it from like settled round buys, like a lurker plus a few spines will defend it from settled round buys and stuff like that. So yeah, like this move that you're doing at the bottom right now is really good. Like ideally right now, if the early game went better for us, we would be starting to make spores. We would be adding in corruptors and vipers now. Our lurker count would have it like around 10 more lurkers, something like that. In total.
I think we can add on spores now, right? We have such a huge, or not such a huge, but we have a bank.
Yeah, just ideally we would have a bigger bank. Cause like let's say you make like 20 spores here, that bank goes away pretty fast, and that's also drones that you're gonna lose that you have to at this point remake. So ideally we would have been at a drone count where we were on like 85 to 90 drones, and then we only have to remake a couple of drones, and it's fine to go down to like 70 drones at this point, right? So yeah, like just like this bank is gonna disappear pretty fast, and you still have to make your corruptors, right, and your vipers. So the bank looks big, but it's actually not that big, right?
Yeah, and I have roaches still in my army.
Yeah.
And I find out that I had like 30 hydras on hotkey.
Yeah. So yeah, like now you're going into the record. You're making vipers, you're making corruptors. Like I said, ideally you would have more lurkers and spores out already. So like you did everything. Like you're doing pretty good moves, I think. Like with your army movement and what you're going for is just a little bit too late. Yeah, a little bit too inefficient with the early game and the mid game and stuff like that. Like all of this stuff snowballs, right? If you have a clean early game, then you get to this position a lot earlier, and then you're starting in a much better position in the game.
Yeah, and at this point I can't really fight them.
Yeah, like at this point you need to already have you need to have enough lurkers, and you need to have spores, you need to have enough corruptor viper, and you need to have like your round by army putting pressure on him. He shouldn't be allowed to move around the map for free, right? There should be something happening, like you should have some lurkers and some roaches pressuring the top right base. Whenever like he's out on the map, you should have something poking him somewhere so that you're punishing him in some way for being out on the map, right? And then ideally you have like a spore wall with lurkers and corruptor vipers, so he can't actually push into you.
Yes.
So yeah, if that's like I said. But like there's other viable styles you could have played as well on this map. Like Swarm Host is really good on this map. Like you probably could have played just Rattling Bane, Hydling Bane. So there's multiple viable styles you can play. But this style is still pretty good, I think, especially like if you're not playing versus top Protoss player. There's a lot of room to outplay your opponent with this style. But yeah, at this point it's just his army is too strong that you can never beat it.
Yeah.
And still have a bank left. So.
Yeah, so I realized that and I leave.
Yeah, like I said, like you have a decent idea what to do. It's just you need to have a cleaner early game and do it faster. So yeah.
River, you still here?
I'm here.
All right. I think that was it. That's almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
So, alright guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, see you.
Thank you.